What's going on, guys? So we're gonna start a new series called Seth Rose Customs. And as you guys can see, I have a good old Honda XR100R sitting behind me that I picked up from a scrapyard for $5. What we're gonna do in this series is that you guys are gonna watch me tear a burnt down motorcycle all the way down to the ground and go ahead and clean every single part, paint it all, make it look like it's brand new, put it all back together, buy the plastic kit and the wire harness. And we're gonna have us a little ripper by the end of this series, and then right after that series, we're gonna hop on another project. So let's get into it. As you guys might be able to see right off the bat, this bike is very grimy. It looks a little charred. Now, the history behind this bike was it was in a factory, like a warehouse, where there was over 800 motorcycles that were in the building, quad runners, all the above, like go-karts, everything. And that building ended up burning down to the ground due to a four-wheeler that was near some sparks, and the four-wheeler had gas near it and it blew up, and that created a huge fire. All right, well, I saw this thing at scrapyard, asked guy on the truck what he wanted for it, $5, went ahead and take it home. But here's the original front forks. I've already done a little bit of work to the bike, just mainly swapping it over so I can get it up on that stand. But you can see the tires all melted, all the plastic melted right off of it. It was like hot butter. But we put the new forks on there already, so we ain't gotta worry about that. I went ahead and cleaned this up before we put it on there. Got all the grime and everything off of that, so it can be painted whenever we need to. But yeah, what you guys will see me doing next is we're gonna go ahead and try and get all the engine pulled out and everything, because we're gonna have a gasket kit ordered for that. We're gonna go ahead and get the chain off. We're gonna throw that away. We're gonna get us a new one. But sprocket doesn't look too bad, or shock, my bad. It doesn't look too bad. It looks in pretty decent shape. We'll take it off and clean it up and put it back on. But like I said, we're gonna tear all the way down to the frame, clean the frame up, paint the whole frame, get everything rebuilt with the engine, put the engine back in. I got these different wheels than the stock ones. The stock ones are, a brake hub. It's got brake pads in there that kind of push up against the walls whenever it engages and makes it slow down. Well, we're gonna convert it to a disc. So therefore we gotta do a little bit of cutting and welding and making shit mock up. Now on the front, we already got the front, there. We don't have to worry about all that. It was already built with the forks. But on the back, it's still built to have that brake hub assembly. All right, so what we're gonna do is this thing right here is getting in the way of our what you wanna call it, the disc, the brake disc. So it touches right there. So we're gonna cut all that out and get all that cleaned up and get rid of all this old mess. And we're actually going to delete the brakes entirely. So all that foot peg and everything will be gone, because by the time we're done, what this is gonna have is a brake handle that leads us to the left side, for stunting. Once you get into a wheelie, you can kind of just use that brake handle, you can stand up on the back of the seat. But by the time this is done, I think you guys are gonna like this little series of me ripping this whole thing apart. But I feel like I'm doing too much talking, so let's go ahead and get right into it. As you guys might be able to see, all the wires have already been melted off and pulled out of this thing. So disconnecting it is gonna be extremely easy. We've already got the carburetor disconnected and everything. We're just pulling the whole engine. So let's go ahead and set you guys down so you can watch me do that. I feel like that's on the right angle. Alrighty, I'm ready to go. Sometimes you just need a little bit more power. We're gonna proceed to remove the engine with big impact gun. Worked out good. That bolt just slips right out of there just like that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and make sure with every single bolt that we take off of this machine, we're going to put the nut back on the end of it. And we're gonna go ahead and stick it in our magnet tray. That way we don't lose anything. Alrighty, let's move on to this back bolt right here. And it looks a little worn on, but we're gonna hope for the best. And it looks like in order to even get to the bottom mount, I'm gonna have to actually take off this, which is kind of dumb, but you know what? It's Honda, name brand. Still gotta get it done at some point. Go ahead and walk over to this side of the engine. I can't exactly get it on that. I wonder if I can go on ahead and just blast her real quick, see if it'll come off. Come on. Alright. We're gonna have the other side. Alrighty guys, now after all that struggling where the bike fell over and everything, you guys can see in the time lapse, we finally got our motor out. Now as you can see, our motor doesn't look too good, not as of right now. So, when I noticed, the first thing I did whenever I first got this is I cracked this cover case. Okay, and I noticed, you know, it looks pretty fairly new in there. It looks like we can just replace that and you know, it's gonna run. But then you get to the carburetor hole, yeah, that's some gunk. So what we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna pull this whole head off and replace all the gaskets and clean everything. And yeah, that's what we're gonna do to make it a little bit better and make it run better. It does change gears, it does kick over, it is free. Another thing I just noticed is look at what's leaking on the exhaust port. Yeah, we'll have to clean everything and, you know, spit shine it up. You can see a lot of grass and mud and shit underneath there. But yeah, the frame itself is actually not in too terrible shape. We just need to clean up all the burnt, all the rust, and then we're gonna put it all back together as the frame as is how it is. We just gotta paint it, make it look nice. So, stay tuned until we go ahead and rip that motherfucker apart. Go ahead and get that fork assembly off. As you can see, we have everything torn off of the bike. It's down to the frame. Now we're going to go on ahead and clean up everything. We're gonna take all this bullshit wiring and the bolts that went to the wiring off. That way we can go ahead and clean the whole frame and get it ready for paint. looks to be that we got most of the crud off of the frame. I've actually got to a point that I'm ready to paint it. You know, there's still a couple things that I didn't go over with the grinder wheel, but you know, it wasn't that bad. So we went ahead and wiped everything down with some brake parts cleaner. We're letting the chemical dry right now. It's all going to evaporate. And then we're going to go ahead and throw a coat of paint or primer on there. And while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and clean up that and get that ready to be painted. And by the time that's done drying, we're going to be ready to paint that. And then we'll put our second coat on that and our first coat on that. And we'll move on to our next piece and do the same thing until we're up to 4 coats. Look at that frame. And say if you ask me, she's looking pretty fresh and brand new. Now we did put a green primer paint on it. You know, it's gonna not look the best as we're now, but for a little while, this is what it's gonna sit like until we can put that last coat. Alrighty, now she's ready for an actual coat of paint. But that won't be happening until we put the bike together. You know, we'll do it 2 days prior of putting the bike fully assembled together. Alrighty, let me clean up the swing arm. Little nub right here, we were actually going to go on ahead and cut that out because we don't need them anymore. This is for the old brake hub, and now having a brake disc, it's not going to fit. So we're going to go ahead and cut it out. To show you, just so you guys don't have to have me explain why I'm doing that. So right now, that's chain side. Flip around, it's on the wrong side. Yeah, that brake disc, right? Well, when we try to put the thing on to said swing arm, as you can see, that little nub gets right in the way, but it will most definitely fit. All right, but we gotta get that nub out of there. See in that time lapse, I went ahead and cleaned up quite a bit of this swing arm. I mean, the one side was completely burnt and the other side seemed a little bit more fine. But we went ahead and got rid of them 2 tabs that were in the way for our wheel, so our wheel will fit directly in there. We already got our bushing caps taped up, so we can go ahead and primer this, and that's what you guys are about to watch me do. We're ready to primer it, make it look like that frame. Which that frame is looking gorgeous. Diggity damn, does that primer coat look good? So we're gonna go ahead and peel off our tape around our bushing caps. There we go. And get the other side, and there we go. And man, does that look good. Just as good as the frame. What do you guys, I ain't no specialist at this, but I know what the fuck I'm doing. Almost as if it's new. You gotta think all this is burnt down. Now look at it. Alrighty guys, now that we're at the end of the video, we got frame painted, we got everything disassembled. You know, we got a lot done today in this video. Next time you guys see the video going, we're gonna be putting it all back together. You know, we're gonna have the frame put back together with the wheels on it. The engine's gonna stay off of it, of course, because we still gotta rebuild that engine. So we'll have it all as a roller and be ready to go with the throttle cable and carburetor already on it and everything. And then on our third video, you guys will see us pull that whole engine apart, and you guys will watch me rebuild it and put it back in the bike and make it a runner. All right, you guys have a good day, and I appreciate you guys watching today.